Hey everybody, remember that if you like listening to our podcast, to please like, subscribe, download, share, listen to the whole episode. If you want to see what we're doing on social media, you can visit our Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening and enjoy this back to school horror episode.
When they built the original high school, they thought they had removed the entire cemetery.
The ghost of a young girl haunts the locker room.
A college that was built on one of the battlefields.
And the park is very haunted. It's super haunted because of the school history.
Students and teachers have reported, and janitors corroborate, seeing a ghostly man.
And instead of a musty basement, the women observed a scene straight out of hell.
My locker, it shut automatically and it scared me.
If ever on the planet there was going to be a school that is truly haunted, it would be this one.
There is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept looking at it, pecking at it until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is dead Crow now. Join us as we attempt to look through the wandering crow's eye to find the gateway to the supernatural, to seek to know the unknowable mysteries of creation. Welcome to the Wandering Crow Podcast.
Welcome, wanderers and murderers. This is Mandy.
This is Abby.
This is Cameron.
And this is JT.
In case you hadn't figured it out for this episode, we will be discussing school horror. Just so that we don't take some of you aback, this episode we do feature ghost stories and paranormal stories, and there's also going to be more true crime type discussion of school horror. Still horror, going to probably freak you out, but not of the paranormal type. There's both. Just wanted to give you a heads up about that. That is what we will be talking about today. So, actually, Abby has 3 stories that are connected somehow, and I am very curious to hear the stories and how she relates them to each other and react and have a little discussion about them. So we'll start with Abby.
So I started with looking for local haunted school stories. And as a matter of fact, there is a lot of lore around Stadium High School in Tacoma. The school featured in 10 Things I Hate About You. That high school that looks like a castle.
Yeah.
It was meant to be an ultra lavish luxury hotel built to the end of the 1800s. The bricks for the walls were made and imported from Italy.
Oh.
I mean, fancy schmancy. There was some big stuff. And those bricks actually are on the facade of the school.
That's crazy.
And, yeah.
But that turned into a high school. It's a high school, right? It's a high school, right?
It's a high school now.
Okay.
It was a bad economic time or whatever. They had to stop construction. And then all of this lumber from the project was stored on site. And somehow it caught fire. But it was a brick building with steel frames. And so the frame of it was still there. The Tacoma Public School District decided to buy it. It was originally known as Tacoma High School, so probably the first one. It allegedly is haunted. Down below the school, it's kind of on a cliff.
Okay. That's scary.
This is part of the reason why people say it's haunted. It's on a cliff near the port. It's right next to the water. They have a view of the water from the school's library. But down in this like little area below the school, it was called Old Woman's Gulch. The city designated this little plot of land to women who were widows of portsmen or whatever they were. They never came home. They were the widows, and the city was like, well, here, go live out the rest of your lives down here with other women. That's fine. They're doing their thing. Well, after the school was officially built, they made plans to create this amazing stadium, and they evicted all of these women.
Oh, rude.
Yeah. They evicted them all.
That's sad.
It's called Stadium High School after this stadium that they built. To carve out the hillside and create that stadium bowl, they flooded it out. Basically, all those houses that were down there got washed away because they literally flooded out the hillside to carve out where the stadium currently is. Allegedly, there was one who gave them a really hard time and refused to move out, and she may or may not have died in that home. It is reported that to this day, students and teachers and staff and visitors may see a woman dressed all in black, shadowy figure over on the cliff edge of the stadium side and watch her jump over the cliff.
Oh.
Other than places that sell you a tour to go there, for instance, I can't find any stories shared by people who say that they've seen that. It is also reported that to avert being drafted for World War II, a teenager hung himself in the attic. Now listen, I can't find anything verifying that to be true.
Okay.
This is unverified lore that I see posted everywhere on all of these websites, all the haunted tours and creepy whatever, and it's copy pasta, creepy pasta. That's what the lore around this school is, creepy pasta.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think that you would be able to find that in like the newspaper records or something.
You would think so, but then I looked so freaking hard
And came up with nothing.
What's worse is, according to who's telling the story, they were either avoiding World War II or Vietnam.
Oh.
There's two different versions of the story.
Oh.
And so it's very loosey-goosey. Anyway, so people claim that it's haunted and it's creepy. And I took a tour. The company that hosts the tour that I took, the owner has all of these postings about the school and how it's haunted and come take our pretty gritty tours. So I kind of assumed there would be some mention of it in the tour. But when we took the tour guide never once talked about any hauntings or any of that lore. She stuck strictly to the factual historical information and never alluded to any of that, which I found telling. And I did my damnedest. I don't know how much time I wasted trying to find any sort of fact or even a damn Reddit story. Anything, anywhere, in any forum from anybody who's actually seen something at the school and posted it online. I even asked a friend whose son goes there. And I said, hey, what does so-and-so know about this? And she said, well, he's never seen anything, but apparently the third floor is haunted or something. I was like, okay, it's just urban legend at this point. So that was, I wasn't upset yet at that point. I started looking up other local schools that are allegedly haunted, and there's a lot of them. And it was a trend to find these haunted tour or whatever websites that just repost the same urban legend type information about the schools and why they're haunted and what goes on there, but without any verification about the history and whether or not any of those things are true. It just became a really apparent trend that annoyed me.
You know, they do embellish upon what is actually haunted just to get people in the door.
These were just lies. These were just falsehood lies.
For example,
Martha Washington School for Girls, which no longer exists. It was knocked down and a park was erected. And now people are saying this park is haunted. GhostCityTours.com, a Seattle-based haunted tours company. They have a page dedicated to the haunted Martha Washington Park. These normally quiet and seemingly innocuous 10 acres sitting on the shore of Lake Washington are a huge hotspot for ghosts and other paranormal activity. Spirits of mistreated schoolgirls, a grounds caretaker, and indigenous apparitions all catch the attention of anyone taking a walk on these haunted, historic grounds. They offer a brief history of the school and the grounds. They say the Martha Washington School for Insane Girls was originally located on Queen Anne Hill, Mercer Island, then finally Brighton Beach on Lake Washington. The Reform School for Wayward Girls was founded in 1900 by Major Cicero Newell, his wife Emma, and the Women's Century Club. Brighton Beach was originally owned by a juvenile court judge and overall advocate for troubled youth, Everett Smith. Smith had built an estate called Morningside that included a greenhouse, boathouse, and caretaker's residence. In 1920, Judge Smith sold the property to the Newells and Club, who moved the Martha Washington School there. The new owners added a dormitory and classroom in 1921. In 1957, the city of Seattle and the state of Washington acquired the school, the students then being considered wards of the state. In 1971, the school was shut down and the buildings were demolished in 1989, whereupon it officially became the park. It was rescued from obscurity in 1992 by Ida Cole of the Seattle Landmark Association, which became the Seattle Theater Group in 1999. Sometime in the 1950s, one of the school janitors went on a murder spree. He assaulted and killed several students, as well as a few of the staff members, hanging the bodies of the former on the madrone tree after strangling them to death. Wrong. With the exception of a couple of kernels of truth in there, the vast majority of that information is verifiably false. Come on! I wanted to just segue in with Stadium because it's over 100 years old. It's got a ton of history, and it could have potentially had something there, but I really don't believe it is. I really believe it's just urban legend and hype. When you look up this Martha Washington School for Insane Girls, there's a lot of creepypasta. Point being, there was just a lot of misinformation. The janitor thing, I couldn't find anything about that. You would think that girls being murdered at a reform school owned by Seattle Public Schools, that would have been in the paper. That would have been somewhere in articles, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I scoured the archives. First of all, it was just called Parental Home or Parental School for Girls. It was never an insane asylum. The girls who were assigned to this school by the juvenile judge were girls who were only mildly misfits. Girls who mostly were considered misfits because their parents failed them and they didn't have a home environment that was structured and loving. According to an article in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer dated September 7th, 1908, a probation officer, Mrs. Ella Jordan, is pleading a case for a girls' home adjacent to an already established boys' home. Quote, "The problem of what to do with delinquent girls is complex. It's much more difficult to find a suitable home for a quote-unquote bad girl than it is to place a bad boy in proper surroundings. These girls are only children." Quote, "One of our cases during the past was a child of 12 who was permitted by her mother to dance at cheap theaters up and down the Pacific Coast, fraternize with low-bred boys, not to return home until midnight. She had had no schooling. Her mother, thoroughly depraved, was the cause of the child's downfall."
Her mom pimped her out.
There are some of our good girls who need the protection of a good home. Recently, one of the officers brought in a girl who had been choked and beaten by a cruel father. Despite these wrongs, she was ambitious, and we have secured a temporary place for her where she can attend school. Yet what about next year or the next? Give our girls a chance. They are not all bad. They want the same pleasure and happiness that your girl wants. Make it possible for them to get it in the right way and to make of themselves good, true women. Just to help you understand how phony these sites are, in regard to the janitor who went on a murder spree, there is a news article This is the Seattle Times, March 2nd, 1954, titled, "Grocer Shot in Back by Robber." The condition of Marvel Bliss Kelly, 68, a grocer who was shot in the back at 9:40 o'clock last night during a robbery in his store. His wife told police that the robber waited inside until another customer left, and then he drew a gun on her and her husband. He was looking for the safe. They said they didn't have one. He told them to stand against the wall. She believes that because her husband has an injury, she specifically calls him an invalid, semi-invalid, that he may have twitched or dropped his arm or something, and that's why the robber shot him. It says... Now, it's not clear if it's the wife or the husband, because clearly they own and run this grocery store. But the article says, quote, "Kelly is custodian at the Martha Washington School for Girls." And that's it. The only truth that I was able to find is that in 1954, a custodian for the Martha Washington School for Girls was involved in this grocery store robbery. It was a grocery store they owned. The husband was shot. That's it. I think we're talking kernel of truth.
I mean, it sounds like an urban legend gossip game. Like, do you see that guy? And he probably looked different, so a bunch of bullshit stories got told about him to explain how creepy he was. Creepy. He probably was the nicest guy in the world. Who knows?
So, and let me just let that spell it out for you, that this is all nonsense and it's infuriating. Just to drive home the sentiment and sense of community and what was expected and wanted for this home at the time, let me just read this from the Seattle Daily Times, September 15th, 1921. The article title is "New Girls Parental School Formally Opened." And of course, they're talking about the Martha Washington School for Girls. It says, Judge Dykeman insisted strongly on the educational character of the institution and the fact that, quote, "it will be a genuine home in the best sense of the word as long as Miss Zyla Allen is in charge, with an efficiency based not on academic standards, but on human love and sympathy."
That's really sweet. That's surprisingly progressive, because I've heard stories of other places, like there's very famous examples, even right up into the 70s. I recently heard a story about this kid who was basically became an indentured servant. And it was supposed to be a school setting, but she was an indentured servant and she was being starved to death. But as children, they were technically considered property and didn't really have rights. So like it was after she was discovered, some lady actually called the police. And this was in the 1900s. Like this, it wasn't until like the 1920s or 30s that there were actually laws in place that prevented people from taking advantage of kids this way, legally.
I just wanted to interject something really quick. In the early 1900s, the concept of a troubled teen girl, or what the definition of that was, is there was precocious sexuality, or in other words, any form of sexual exploration or involvement outside of the norms was considered fundamentally perverse and indicative of future promiscuity. There was also this thing called defiance of domesticity. They were expected to be domesticated or follow the norms of traditional female roles, and then challenges to authority. So these are probably the type of girls they were putting into this facility or labeling them as troubled. Just wanted to throw that out.
Yes, you're right. And I do have an article. So there's some other place called the Maple Lane School in Washington. This is somewhere else, but 126 out of our 143 girls have sex behavior problems.
Meaning that they were groomed and raped as young children and learned that behavior.
Well, maybe, or that they're...
We know that that's true. Kids don't do that unless it's been shown to them.
Well, it depends on how old they are, right? If they're 16, 17 years old and they just...
Okay, sure. Hi, kid.
Mandy's son came in the room, so she's not with us anymore. That being said, I also found an article which cites wanting to be in an interracial relationship as a sexual delinquency or a sexual behavioral problem. So there's a spectrum here.
Interracial relationships.
Yep.
Immoral conduct.
Yeah.
Clearly insane. You know, when you first brought it up, I was thinking like Sweeney Todd. Locked away. They're going to cut her hair periodically and sell that on the black market, and she gets beat. And that's what I was imagining. So it's good to know that it wasn't like that.
Yeah, and you know what? I think what Mandy's talking about, and I think even in Washington State, there are some facilities where this is the case, because the way this parental school is discussed versus their other reform schools for girls, the attitudes and the language are very different. And part of the reason why they wanted this parental school opened is because some of these girls were just minorly deviant and they didn't need to be subjected to those facilities.
That's good.
I think that those facilities were here still, but this place wasn't one of them.
It's kind of fucked up that a school that actually was trying to do good things has that reputation now. Like, it's been maligned for the purpose of making some people money off of some fake stories.
Yeah. Isn't that pisses me off.
Just real quick, can we address the fact, Cameron, do you have a filter on? Why the fuck do you look like an actual vampire right now? Look at you.
I don't know. It's just, it's actually a yellow light too.
You're like so gray. You look like a dead body.
I was thinking about that. I was like, I can't even blame genetics because you guys are like pink.
Yeah, we're like colorful. You have literally no color. But the thing is, there is color in your screen. That pillow is obviously maroon. And your blanket is yellow and something, either black or blue.
I haven't been in the sun for many, many years, so that might have something to do with it.
Well, you're right. It does look like a filter.
It does. Actually, my whole screen kind of does.
Well, the walls do too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because this desk here is actually like a brown.
Yeah.
So it looks green.
Oh, I mean, I see it as brown, but I do see okay, yeah, it's fine. Anyway, sorry to derail.
I did find, after Seattle had already handed control over to the state, the facility didn't shut down because it was dilapidated or crappy, although it may have been, because by the time they moved out of there, I think it was 1969. But the state got a levy to build a brand new and improved, modernized detention center to home both males and females for a grander area. And what I did find is that there are a slew of lawsuits against the new school called Echo Glen something or other for sexual abuse and physical abuse. So you can't help but wonder if maybe there was some funny business going on inside of this parental home, but there is no public record that I can find to corroborate any such allegations going on in there.
I mean, I've heard stories about insane asylums today, and abuse still happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's people...
If anywhere there's a place
a power imbalance.
Where people have lost their freedom. Exactly. Yep, that's right, Cameron.
So this school, this Martha Washington school, was you're saying it was torn down, right? Was it torn down?
Yes, and they built a park there, and the park is very haunted. Okay. And they're alleging that it's super haunted because of the school history.
So I found a story about that from 2018 where these 4 teenage kids went into that park to go ghost hunting.
Yeah.
And only 3 of them came out of it alive.
What?
Oh.
No.
Now, it just so happens that there were some other people that went into the park and started shooting guns in the park and actually shot one of the kids and killed them in that park while they were in there just to tell ghost stories. Just in there to have these ghost stories.
Well, that sucks.
I just found that interesting. Like, somebody has actually recently died there because of these ghost stories, because of the history of this park.
But you guys aren't equally pissed at all these websites for just like I am so annoyed.
Well, there's a quote from the website Seattle Terrors. After dark, those who go to Martha Washington Park report phantom footsteps, disembodied voices, blood-curdling screams in the distance, and the feeling of being watched or followed. Like, what park can you go to and not have those experiences happen to you? I think you're onto something there. I think you're onto something of the creepypasta side of this. Like, they're using the history to create stuff that isn't necessarily there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It brings me back to the ARG episode and the Fantastic Daily and how the paranormal community was so pissed at that guy for being a phony. It's like I'm them in this situation, and these phonies trying to amp up how haunted these places are when I just really don't think they are, and it's all just a bunch of nonsense. It pisses me off. And like you said, that's a really good point. This name now is being soiled and drugged through the mud, and the history is being rewritten.
It's about making the money, though, you know? They don't give a shit. So I hear 2 strikes. You looked for 2 haunted schools, and you found 2 haunted schools, or at least 2 schools with reputations for being haunted, and both of them, it was a bunch of BS, it sounds like.
Then this third story that I have found is verifiably an awful and stomach-sickening school where there's tons and tons and tons of evidence and testimony that horrible things happened there. This is the Arthur G. Dozier School for Boys in Marion, Florida. The history of the school was that it was opened in 1900, and it was meant to be... We have to rewind a little bit. Slavery wasn't legal anymore. So through laws, people found a way to criminalize Black people and put them into like parole kind of situation, like labor. Yeah. And so basically they were still in forms of slavery because of whatever crimes they committed, and including young children. Yeah.
By the way, Abby said crimes with quotations. Oh, you couldn't see that?
Quote unquote.
Just so you know, quote unquote crimes. We all know it was probably bullshit.
It was probably mostly all bullshit. And people became really outraged that the children weren't being protected from this. And so in the 1900s, the state created this system of reform school for children. It was supposed to be criminals, supposed to be thieves and murderers, in quotes. But very quickly, within the first 10 years, it just became incorrigible, which meant like you were disobedient, truant, which meant maybe you were skipping school, or disabled. Again, there was a higher amount of young Black people in there. There was a large number of kids dying there, and it was known. They were being reported to the state, and there was a cemetery on the grounds, but there was only something like 20-something marked graves. And after all of these people started coming out of the woodwork and reporting what was going on, reports from other kids were that there was a severe underreporting of kids who were dying in that premises and being buried on the property in unmarked graves. And I don't know how it happened, but this anthropologist got involved. She volunteered with a whole crew of people to go in and exhume and find other bodies. Through documents, there were 100 recordings, up to 100 recordings of kids who had died in their care on the facility. But there were only something like less than 50 where they knew that the remains were either sent somewhere else to be buried, like to family or some other gravesite, or they were buried on site. And she found 55 unmarked graves. And she started trying to identify causes of death. And very, very small amount of them, she's been able to find DNA matches.
So there's a lot of exposition, but I'm not hearing a whole lot of like ghost stories. Just, you don't think that
Mandy said schools with bad stories. And so I think if ever on the planet there was going to be a school that is truly haunted, it would be this one. It would have to be a school like this.
Yeah.
Is there any reportings?
It's not going to be a school like I went to that was built on top of a cornfield. You don't hear stories of dead corn.
Right.
No, not likely.
There were outpours of men giving testimony to the state of horrors that happened to them when they were in this penitentiary. There was a room called the White House where the boys were taken and strapped down to beds and beaten nearly to death, lashed with belts with metal on them. There was one article that I read where the guy is recounting that he passed out somewhere after 35 whippings or some amount of them. But one of the boys who was in an adjacent room listened and counted, and it was well over 100, 150, let's say. And there were just so many of these stories. Apparently, there was some point in time where maybe in the 80s, it wasn't all that bad, because there are mixed reports from people who say that they went and they were like, I never had any experience like that. And other people who were like, well, I did. And so, I mean, it happened. Is it DeSantis? DeSantis signed into law, or he signed a bill.
Isn't he the governor of Florida?
Mm-hmm. He signed a bill in which the state took accountability for the atrocities that happened at this school and one other, and allotted $21 million for the victims who come out and claim that they were abused. And do you want to know how much all of the victims ended up getting in the end when they all came out of the woodwork? Out of $21 million, it was allotted, and they all each got $21,000. What's the math on that? Somebody do the quick math.
That's a lot of fucking
zeros.
Kids.
21.
Well, you probably are discounting that the lawyers got paid 40%.
Yeah. It's close to 1,000 people who actually came out and claimed it. Now, so right after he signed that bill, he signed something about the death penalty. And there happens to be a man who's on death row for murdering a girl who went to that school, and he is trying to appeal the death sentence for himself based on the fact that perhaps he's a product of that school. When he attended that school, he said that he had both of his legs broken when he tried to escape the school. And Erin Kimmerly, this anthropologist who spearheaded the excavation project, she found through documents that there was like a 20% higher increase of serious injury or death after kids tried escaping or running away. And there was one where I think they said, oh, this guy, let me read this to you. I can tell Cameron's like, this isn't hot in school. Stop it. I went to a human remains and body recovery conference in Atlanta. I watched a presentation by the professor of South Florida University who did the DNA and isotope testing on the remains of the boys from the graveyard. Many death certificates said they died of disease, but some had bullet holes in them and severe blunt force trauma. You could be sent there for crimes as ridiculous as stealing a bread bun.
Hey, they tripped and fell on those bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's the thing. It sounds just like the Native American reform schools.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like anyway, and there's so many of these things where you remove control from the individual because of whatever reason you feel like, and you put it in the hands of these people. And what does it do? It attracts sociopaths.
Yeah.
But not only that, remember there was an experiment where they had innocent people that were forced into detention. Well, it was for the experiment. They were put in detention and they were to be treated as prisoners. And the other people that were part of the experiment were forced to be the detainees. And they started abusing their
I've heard of experiments like that.
The people that were in on it.
They become power mad or whatever. The power gets to their heads or something.
It messes with your head. There's a psychology behind it.
It's fucking disgusting.
They didn't even close this school until 2011 or 12. The most recent 2011 report just outright said this institution is still putting kids in direct, serious bodily harm or potential for death. And they finally closed it. But as I understand, they have plans to tear down the old building, build a new one, and now there's already a new reform project in the works. So that school will definitely be haunted.
I don't doubt it for a second.
Who's next? Tell us. You guys get to the creepy real ghost stories.
I have one that kind of goes along with that a little bit. It's based on where it was built. It's called Lee Williams High School in Kingman, Arizona. It's still in operation. The history of the school is that it was built on the site of the former Mojave County Union High School that opened in 1917, which later was renamed Kingman High School. And then after a $22 million renovation in 2012, they named it Lee Williams High after Richard Lee Williams, a firefighter and principal that was killed in a 1973 propane tanker explosion. Now, how the school is haunted is during that 2012 renovation, they discovered pioneer remains, a pioneer cemetery. Now, they knew it was there because when they built the original high school, they thought they had removed the entire cemetery. Okay. But upon excavation of the football field, they found several more dead bodies, caskets, and different things of what they thought were pioneers or even Halalupai tribal members. Did I say that right? Halalupai. Hualapai.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those in that area. They actually had to stop construction and get some of their tribal members out to actually bless the area so that they didn't make the spirits mad that could have potentially have still been there. But since then, there has been, when they've had graduation ceremonies on the football field grounds, there has been reports of seeing 19th century attired figures, such as women in prairie grounds, old men in old-fashioned suits, standing amongst the crowd. These figures appear in photos at the school on the football field during graduation ceremonies.
Oh.
In the crowd, there was a video of these figures that are standing there. Then when people actually see these figures and they go up to them, they disappear.
Oh my God. What a trip would that be?
Yeah.
And they're in old clothing.
They're in the old pioneer clothing because Kingman was a frontier town.
You'd want to go up to those people. You'd be like, what's your deal? What are you here for? What are you promoting?
Are you a reenactor? What's the deal?
Yeah.
So the football field and bleachers partially covered the old pioneer cemetery where there was approximately 350 settlers once buried in that site.
Mm.
So prior to that renovation, there were reports. Students and teachers have reported, and janitors corroborate, seeing a ghostly man wearing a long coat and bowler hat roaming the hallways. That is why I chose this story. Because what does that sound like?
Hat Man.
Sounds like the Hat Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's also reports of a young girl that is said to be heard at night expressing a desire to play outside.
Aww.
Oh, I don't like that. Come play outside with me. That is the most creepiest thing I can imagine.
This phenomenon has been reported by janitors and staff who work late at night. Some link the ghost to children buried in the Pioneer Cemetery, though no specific historical figure has been identified. In the gymnasium, which is a historic gymnasium and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the gymnasium is itself is a hotspot for paranormal activity where students and coaches have reported basketballs rolling around on their own, lockers rattling, and shadowy figures darting along bleachers. And then there's a story of a basketball player recounting seeing a man in a tattered suit at the far end of the gym who vanished when addressed. The player later identified the figure in an old photograph of a local pioneer shown by a history teacher. So,
wow.
And then, of course, there's teachers staying late at night have seen a woman in a white nurse's uniform near the science labs, often passing by windows or hallways only to find the area empty upon investigation. And they're saying there's some speculation that a nearby hospital has some of the previous nurses that worked there still kind of haunting the area.
That's crazy.
There's also a story that a principal, his name was Steve Elwood, in a 2013 Los Angeles Times interview described a creepy, unused room in the school, a musty, windowless chamber with a gravel floor that gives people the creeps. And that's his detention room, he said jokingly.
That'll do it.
There's really no stories of any tribal hauntings or anything like that. But I think that kind of more comes from the tribe has done their due diligence with the potential of that, some of their people being buried in that cemetery where they did the correct ceremonies to placate the spirits of their tribes.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. One of our favorite, Cameron introduced me to this guy, I think, Sean Clenn. He's a Dene tribal member who has a YouTube channel. He's a creator. He does a lot of different things. And he actually went and did, Cameron, you shared that video with me. One of your buddies was there, a friend of yours, where they went to it used to be a school, but I think now it's a museum. And they captured a bunch of weird shit that happened. And one of their friends, ceremonial list, I don't know his exact title or training, but he did a ceremony to try and help placate the spirits that they felt like were still in that building. Do you remember that, Cameron?
So I didn't know him. I knew the sound guy. He was He was also one of the people that was there doing the investigation. That was one of his friends.
Yeah, I didn't think Sean Clenn was your friend. I thought your buddy was one of the investigators there with Sean Clenn. Is that not right?
We should share that in this. I forget what they're called.
Sean Clenn Shadow Productions is his YouTube channel. I just wanted to bring that up because it reminded me of that, but I can't find it, what school it was that he actually went to. I want to say maybe it was a Globe or one of the small eastern towns of Arizona. Smaller, I should say.
That would make sense. That's right by where they went.
Yeah. So your thing about haunted locker room and basketball and all kinds of stuff, there is supposed to be a haunted school in Gilbert. Highland Junior High School is haunted. Did you know that, JT?
No, I didn't know that.
Did any of your kids go there?
No.
It's pretty close to where we are.
That's not a very old school either.
No. I found things. So
awesome.
So legend has it that the ghost of a young girl, locals call her Lily, haunts the locker room of Highland Junior High School, slamming lockers. It activates the automatic hand dryers and slams lockers. That's the same thing as slamming lockers. They said slamming lockers twice. But a bunch of kids came on and they commented on this little thing. It's called Arizona Haunted Houses is the website. So this one kid says, "Hi, I'm also an HJHS student. It's so spooky. One time when I was opening my locker, it shut automatically and it scared me. And it was after PE when everybody was gone. I was there alone and I heard a voice say, 'Help me.' So I got out of there and I was so scared." Another person says, "I'm also a student there. And every time when I'm alone, like being late for PE, this is again, the gymnasium, like the locker room, I hear a girl saying, 'Help me.' Sometimes, and it really just creeps me out with my friends too."
And locker rooms are always kind of maze-like with corners everywhere. I think that adds to the creepiness.
Yeah. And they don't
it's
have
a kind of liminal space.
They don't have windows.
Ooh.
There's a lot of water involved usually. Like there's something about it that really is just terribly frightening.
The ambience of the noise, it's got that kind of echoey feel to it. It feels like if you hear a noise, it could be coming from anywhere.
Another student says, "I'm a girl at HGHS, and all of the rumors about her are somewhat true, but it only happens when you're alone in the room. Some girls have tried saying Lily and bringing weird stuff to mess with her, but they got their revenge. One girl broke out with acne the very next day." Oh man, the ghost definitely did that. "The other girl moved school mysteriously, and the other one was never seen again." So I don't believe that one at all. Here's another one. "I'm a current student, year 2000 to 2021. When I was changing in the restroom, all the showers turned on. Music started playing. It was weird for everyone. By the way, this was actually in the boys' locker room."
Yo, that's like straight from It, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I was thinking that.
So
all of a sudden a red balloon popped out of the drain and exploded and there was blood everywhere.
Oh, did that happen?
I love this one because this student's like, "This is all bullshit. I don't believe it," but then goes on to tell a story about how something weird happened. So This student says, titled, "Never really experienced anything. I took PE there last year and nothing really happened. The teacher really just wanted to scare us and stuff. The first few weeks, everyone was scared and trying to summon Lily. All I've ever experienced was that the sink unexpectedly turned on and there was a weird silent presence. So which is it, kid? Did nothing happen or did something happen? Okay, so I was like, all right, well, this is a young school. This school is not old. Like, there's no way some ghost girl is there. Like, this is no way. So I checked it out. I typed in student dies at Highland School. Sure enough, a kid died there.
Oh, really? What year was that?
This was in 2018. Wow. There was supposedly a body found on the premises. But maybe I got the dates wrong. Maybe it was actually this year. So there's a little bit of some conflation then. But in 2016, a female student died. And then in 2025, another student was actually on the way to school and died in a car crash. So those things are getting kind of mashed together. All right. Anyway, so yeah.
So Cameron, have you told any or were you done, Mandy?
Yeah, that one was not as fun as I thought it was going to be. Cameron, did you want to tell a story?
So mine's actually about Gettysburg, a college that was built on one of the battlefields. So as far as like verifying whether or not somebody died there. The story itself seems kind of far-fetched, but I just figured it was a good story. Once upon a late night in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 2 college administrators threw in the towel. It had been a long day at the dorm, one of the few original buildings on the campus of Gettysburg College. The 4th floor was a busy place with paperwork to file, admissions to check, and records to store. It had made for a lot of work, and the women found it easier after the students left for that day. So, in the late hours of the night, they decided to clock in some overtime in exchange for some peace and quiet. However, quitting time had long since arrived, and now they headed for the elevator. They head down the corridors, and it was definitely dark. The lights had already been turned off. The few lights that were on were flickering. There was a quiet hum. They were chatting, they were happy, they were ready to go home. They stepped into the elevator, and one pressed the button for the 1st floor, and with a jolt, the box began a slow, creaking descent. Things turned fishy when the elevator sailed right past the 1st floor, and the 2 women exchanged confused glances. One punched the 1st floor button again, and forced the elevator to stop. The machine clunked, and it stopped at the basement, a dank room used for storage and old file cabinets and moldy cardboard boxes. Stacks of dusty paperwork, maybe some leftover odds and ends from when the building served as a dormitory. The ladies weren't sure what the hell had happened with the elevator. They also weren't prepared for what was going to come next. The elevator door slid open with a ding. And instead of a musty basement, the women observed a scene straight out of hell. Gory, limbless, and grisly men in Civil War uniforms lay on every inch of the floor space, crammed in like sardines. They cried in pain and moaned with oncoming death. Their skin had turned white with blood loss and shock. Some were in a slate and stiff with death. Blood coated all the walls and pooled on the floors, smearing every stitch of clothing. A haggard crew of Civil War medical personnel oversaw the hideous scene. Worn-out doctors, a few blood-spattered nurses, and military orderlies. They worked with goo-covered bone saws that claimed way too many limbs. Even now, they held a squirming patient down and went to work on the leg. The saw crunched through the human skin and bone, back and forth, blood squirting, the man screaming. Nearby, another orderly carried an armful of bone saws with their harvested bodiless legs and arms. One of the medical orderlies of long ago suddenly turned to the elevator, and he gazed at the visitors from a different, much safer time. A hollow, pleading gaze that cried for help, any help, with the horrible nightmare of his own era. He walked towards them, reached out his arms. The elevator doors finally squeaked shut and carried the administrators to the 1st floor. When they got there, everything had returned to normal, except for these poor women. Scared half to death, and who wouldn't be, they immediately reported the incident to the security officer on the first floor. Because, again, they didn't know what the hell was going on. They just saw something horrible, went to the first floor, and got the security guard. The officer on duty, in a later interview, recalled how shook up the women were. He personally escorted the women back to the elevator. Under their terrified gaze, he pressed the button for the basement. When the doors opened, he found nothing. The room was just a lazy old basement, the way it had always been.
Dang.
And that's the end of the story.
Damn. That was a good story, Cameron.
This is just administrative staff trying to go home at the end of the day and accidentally witnessing, what war did you say?
Civil War.
A civil
Yeah,
war.
they kept referencing what they assumed was Civil War era
surgeries.
Yeah. Medical tent operations.
But it was realistic enough for them to be like, something's actually happening here. This is horrible.
Yeah, there's a serial murdering happening upstairs.
Quick help, they're killing all the Civil War reenactors.
I mean, can you just imagine you go into the elevator? Now, this was also in one of the oldest buildings in that school.
Oh, so you familiar with that?
Yeah,
Wow.
I read that story too. I found that story. But yeah, so it was in one of the oldest buildings there. And you just imagine you go press the button and your elevator keeps going past your floor. And you're like, what the crap is going on?
You're just trying to go home.
Your doors open and you see this scene. Like, wow.
What?
I'd like to redeem myself. I have another. One of the oldest high schools in Arizona, Chandler High School, is no stranger to abnormal occurrences. In the oldest building that still stands on the second floor, north wing of Old Main, students, teachers, and other school employees have admitted to seeing and hearing things. One custodian supposedly even refused to clean that section of the school after a paranormal run-in. And there's a great story from a person who has gone to this school. He says, September 3rd, 2022, my freshman year at Chandler High School, I had to stay after for my geometry test. I got out of the class and was beginning to head home, but I had to use the restroom, so I went to the bottom floor and Old Main restroom. I took a step in and I heard what sounded like a little girl scream. I was confused on why there was a girl in the boys' restroom, but that was pretty much my biggest worry. I walked in and asked if everything was okay, and she said something along the lines of, "He's dead." I felt like I was in a movie from that point. I went in fully and looked around, and there was no one there. This is when I started to panic. I looked in the sink, and there was blood everywhere. To this day, I don't know if that blood was related to the little girl or if someone could have had a bloody nose or something. But back to the point, after I saw the blood, that's when I actually got freaked out. So I started to walk out when I heard something zoom past the hallways. It was 5 on a Friday. I don't think anyone but a few teachers would be there at that time. Then the lights turned off, and I kid you not, the vending machine fell over, he wrote all in caps. It had to be at least 500 pounds, and it just fell over with no warning.
Vending machines are not just going to tip over like a book balancing.
So then, he says, then suddenly the lights... Okay, so I'm going to read this back over. So he goes, the vending machine fell over. He wrote that all in caps. He says, it had to have been at least 500 pounds, and it just fell over with no warning. With the lights still off, a teacher came and saw me and then gave me in-school suspension for a week. I was so confused and shocked that I didn't even complain. Because people say the school is haunted and makes jokes about it, but I don't find them funny. It's a real thing and a terrifying experience. He's like, you know what? I'll take it.
I'll take that week.
And I'm so glad you're here. I'll go wherever you take me right now. Like, yeah, he was done.
Oh my God.
So that was a good story.
Are there more from that? I have...
No.
I'm going to have to ask my wife about that because she went to that school.
Did she really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, if she ask her if she knows of any hauntings.
Any suspicious vending machines?
That poor kid, like, that's a pretty believable story, to be honest. Like, the way that he writes it, the inflection, the shock, like, I believe that one. That's a weird one.
I have a couple different sources. I was just a little curious to see if anybody says that there's any hauntings at Columbine High School.
Oh,
it seems like that would be a good candidate.
Yeah, it would.
I looked it up, and there is some like lore that gets chalked up to upperclassmen hazing. Upperclassmen will apparently tell underclassmen that there are hauntings or that this XYZ happens, and then part of the hazing is to freak these kids out. This person says, "No, the school is not haunted. I was the user who shared about the freshman hazing joke, which someone else mentioned here. There was a period of quote-unquote terror for about a year after Columbine here in Littleton.
I bet. Everybody was traumatized.
Where there were several deaths and or suicides of people linked to the event. Survivors, students, parents of survivors.
That's sad.
There was a robbery not too long after Columbine in which 2 Columbine students were killed. And to this day, there was absolutely no trace of that killer at all.
Ooh.
Another one of the deaths was a Columbine student's body was found in a dumpster somewhere near the school. Another death, I believe, was a survivor who committed suicide. I don't remember. All I know is because these deaths all happened quite soon after the massacre and that each victim had a connection to the school or the massacre. Naturally, everyone turned it into a superstitious thing. It is really eerie, but it just shows how the gravity of an event can still affect a community forever."
I want to speak to that a little bit because I do think that there is a metaphysical element to that. The sheer psychic trauma that whole entire community had to go through. It's like it created a little mini black hole of death.
Yeah.
I do feel like, yeah, you can put it in scientific terms. There was a lot of psychological and mental distress, understandably, that so many people went through because they lost their children.
Mm-hmm.
And that ripple effect that continued afterwards of like friends and other people, probably survivor's guilt, like God knows what those poor people went through.
Yeah.
I do feel like there is something spiritual in that. I do hold to this belief that I think that in this metaphysical, non-physical reality, there are creatures that will flock to events like that and will augment and multiply the distress that people go through. And I do think that people become really susceptible when they're in that kind of pain. Yeah. And that there are entities which will prey on that and will push. And you can easily say, that's a bunch of BS. It's clearly just psychological stuff, but I think that there's more to it than that. That poor community. I wonder even like to this day what the impact is on that place.
So this goes on a little bit. During my school's Columbine unit, so this person goes to a neighboring school, and in a unit, I guess, where they talk about it, one of the points we debated is whether those eerie deaths in the year after it happened should also be counted in the death toll. Or
they totally should.
Or if those secondary victims should also be memorialized. Back to your question, I don't think the school is haunted, but it is harrowing to be there at first, and especially being in rooms or places that Eric and Dan were. I only went there for school events, games, meetings, etc. because I attended a high school in a bordering city. If anything, I felt light and a sense of, I guess maybe comfort or protection. I know this sounds stupid. As if there are no ghosts or evil spirits in the school, just the light and kind presence of the angels of the victims is the best way to describe it. I'm glad really the school is still standing, and I'm glad the movie theater in Aurora is still standing too. The Dark Knight Rises.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I originally thought, how could you enjoy yourself in a place where people died? But us Coloradans are resilient, and I'm so happy we can reclaim these places. Now, I thought that this one mentioned it, but one of the parents maybe was visiting the school or near the school and saw what she claims was like an angel ascending from the school library.
No.
She had lost a daughter, and she believes that it was her daughter's spirit rising from the school. On one hand, it's really gut-wrenching and hard to talk about without getting really choked up. And on the other hand, it's really interesting, the survivorship and the resiliency, and that people want to look at it with a lightness almost.
Yeah.
In retrospect. And so I thought that was a really, really interesting perspective to find and see.
Man, what a note to send your kids back to school on. This really is terrifying for in a totally different way than I expected.
Good luck, kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we should we cut it?
I don't know, because it is terror.
No, I don't think
it is
so.
terrifying.
I think it's relevant.
I think we keep it.
So.
Yeah. And, and I will say, I get these notifications all the time when my son and my daughter's school does
lockdowns,
school shooter lockdown drills. And that is like,
I'll never forget.
Okay, well, I'm glad they're doing that. But also, holy fuck, I just can't, like, the thought that my kids could potentially go through that is like awful.
5
what were you
minutes
gonna say,
before
Cameron?
my shift started as an EMT, there was SWAT trucks, news crews, helicopters, ambulances, firefighters, and you name it, in front of the school next to my station. I was horrified. I sped to the station, clocked in, started suiting up, getting the ambulance ready, and he's like, whoa, what are you up to? Dude, there's something going on at the school. Yeah, they're doing a drill. Well, why the fuck didn't they tell me?
But they had SWAT there? They don't do that for drills, do they?
Not just for the students, for the first responders.
It wasn't for the students, it was for the EMS.
So they could tactically move through and figure out the logistics.
That's okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I was like, holy shit.
That's really... Well, that's reassuring to hear that they're doing it.
I had to participate in a lockdown drill.
You did?
This last year with the students in my class, which was...
Oh, right, because you were at this...
Yeah.
I forgot.
I was at the elementary school, and I was in a classroom full of, kindergarten kids with autism, and to do a drill like that with these kids was just, it really... Kids like that you're trying to get them to learn a routine, and then that's not routine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's very hard. So
yeah, good point.
Okay, well, this was not what I expected it to be, but it was very terrifying, like for real. Like, this is very scary stuff. A little bit more gravity to the stories.
Sorry, guys, I can't.
No, it's fine.
How dare you?
Oh, they are terrifying.
Well,
I can't let these haunted website people just
take advantage.
Yeah,
it's
your fake stories are horrible.
It is garbage
when there's all this real monstrosity going on, and I hate you. I hate all of it. It's all terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible, especially in those reform schools. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
People legitimately suffered and died here. I don't know. But then, what are we doing? I guess it's different because we're trying to get to the truth of it. Also, I just want to say, with regard to Haunted Arizona, I told the story about the Ashbrook Wash and the woman, was it Maria, who died? And I was like, I was so excited. And like, I feel like...
Was it Camille?
Was it Camille?
Yeah, I think it was Camille.
Camille.
Something with a C, Cannon.
And I just want to apologize. Like, that seemed like pretty tone deaf. Like, in retrospect, as I was listening to it, I'm like, man, I'm very excited that a woman died. This is awful.
I felt the same way about the way I worded it, about how our family member, in my opinion, had failure to thrive. I feel like it was not very tactful the way that I worded it. So I felt exactly the same way.
So we just all want to apologize. We just get excited about
I have
to compartmentalize. I have to, or I will literally self-destruct. I will implode emotionally and mentally. I can't. It is too much that I'm carrying. So at least in that instance, I hear myself, and I heard how disrespectful, and I just felt like we didn't necessarily carry the right tone. It's terrible that that woman was murdered, and I wanted her to be highlighted for the things that she actually succeeded in, and for the success that she was. She was the breadwinner, but I don't really feel like that conveyed. So I just wanted to take a minute and apologize. we do care about people. We're not monsters, but sometimes that doesn't convey.
I love you, Mom.
I love you. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out.
With that, I love you, Mom. This has been another episode of
The
Wandering
Crow.
Nice.
I have a feeling Abby is going to ruthlessly edit herself. You're going to do this one, Abby. I'm going to let you